battle for the Game of the Year 2023. Hey, goddamn. That's going in the blooper reels. Or I might just leave it here. The battle of Game of the Year 2023 begins now. And I am filming this video before the official announcement on Monday. Today is Sunday for me. But I probably will be releasing this video on Monday. I think the announcement will be around 9 a.m. my time. So by the time I release this video, the announcement may have already been made, but I'm still just going to do it to cover it. Just so that you guys know where my thoughts were at prior to the actual announcement. But yeah, it's been a good year for gaming. I've spoken about this on my main channel before. 2023 will go down in history. There's actually been a lot of releases that are very much Game of the Year worthy and could probably win Game of the Year in other years, but because 2023 is so packed and so vicious, there's a lot of amazing games that are going to miss out, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because, like what I said, Game of the Year, losing out on Game of the Year doesn't mean you're a bad game, blah blah blah. Life moves on. You can still be a fantastic game. Now, which release is actually going to win Game of the Year? Because the field is so strong this year that settling on nominations itself is going to be a tough task. Because again, we have Marvel's Spider-Man 2 with its outstanding review scores, also in shouts, but it's also up against strong competition from Nintendo, as we have Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. We also have the breakout success of which was probably the dark horse of gaming this year in Baldur's Gate 3, which I personally think is going to win Game of the Year. It's already won at the Golden Joysticks. I think overall it was just probably the most fully fleshed out game. Came out of nowhere and managed to dominate, whereas the other game sort of came in with a big expectation, and some fell flat on their faces, some succeeded, so it is what it is. But Geoff Keighley will reveal the full roster of nominees for the Game of the Awards on Monday, 13th of November, as I mentioned, which is tomorrow for me, as he will outline the contenders across 30 categories via the live stream. Again, the live stream is at 9 a.m. Pacific, my time, and that would be, what, +3? Yeah, so 12 Eastern, I guess. Fuck, where was I? Oh, and 5 p.m. for GMT. That's the other time zone I was forgetting. But again, voting will presumably open afterwards, right after that. And so they're going to open the public vote. And again, they do the percentages. So public vote will hold a certain percentage, and then the actual reviewers and everything like that, the journalists will. But again, as I was saying, back to the actual contenders. 2023 has been surprisingly flush with a huge number of exciting video games, major releases, offbeat indies. Personally, one of the other drops that I loved was fucking Hi-Fi Rush. That came out of nowhere for me. So again, I would have loved for Hi-Fi Rush to actually be the contender for Xbox's personal game of the year. Even though Xbox was pushing Starfield as their main launch of the year, I think Hi-Fi Rush probably edges it for me. I think it had a better outing than Starfield, although I think Starfield will age well. It just didn't have the best of launches. Now, the first contender we're going to bring up here is Alan Wake 2. Again, the first Alan Wake was a labor of love developed in fits and starts by Finns over at Remedy Studio. Now, I think the game took 5 years to make, and again, it's a sequel, and that was the original Alan Wake, and again, the sequel was released more than a decade later. It doesn't come bundled with the same troubled origin story, but it perfectly iterates on the original sense of uncanny suspense. It's less of a horror story, more of a psychological suspense, and a detective adventure. So you take control of Sage Saga Anderson and FBI agents sent to investigate the eldritch disappearance of the namesake author and obvious Stephen King stand-in. Remedy has broadened the scope by making Alan Wake 2 far more exploration-heavy and self-directed compared to its typical highly intentional narratives. But again, even when the players are left to their own devices, the game is still slathered with plenty of studio's trademarks, clammy weirdness with layers and layers of references using the player with the controller, and lots of souls on screen. Then we have Spider-Man 2, the other contender. Again, I've almost run out of ways to talk about Insomniac's Spider-Man games. They're always good, a perfect evolution in the web slinging that we've come to know and love, especially from the PlayStation 2 era. So again, you take control as either Peter Parker or Miles. You untangle another fiction-spinning Marvel tale. My bad for that. Again, while taking breaks to fight crime all over New York. The story was super fun for me. I loved how they introduced a lot of different boss battles. I do have a review of this up on my main channel, and the playthrough is also up on my main channel. Like I mentioned, this channel is going to be just for like news specific stuff, so no playthroughs on here. But yeah, I think Spider-Man 2 is personally one of my contenders. Again, Game of the Year contender. I think it's easily PlayStation's Game of the Year, because on PlayStation we haven't had... Yeah, I'm trying to think, yeah. In terms of exclusives, yeah. Best exclusive this year, easily. Because we did get the Burning Shores DLC, but that DLC, not a full-fledged game. And then we also have Super Mario Wonder. That's the other contender. Again, it's a long-awaited return to the form of lineage of 2D Nintendo games. Nintendo's bread and butter, basically, since the 80s and 90s. So we do know what we're getting with the Mario game. There was also Lies of P, which came out of nowhere. I was super fucking excited for this game because, again, I love the theme that they were able to take. Basically to take us into a Soulsborne world, giving us those vibes that we got from a blend of Souls games, essentially, because some Sekiro mechanics, some Bloodborne mechanics, some Dark Souls mechanics, all fused in with a Pinocchio story. And I think with the hints that they dropped at the end of the game, they may be going into those. It'll be interesting to see what their take on that is, if we get essentially a Soulsborne Wizard of Oz as their next sequel to Lies of P. Then we also have Starfield, which was in development for 8 years. Starfield, I feel like, is a bit of a throwback game. Again, it's Bethesda-style open-world RPG. They didn't enhance a lot of major reforms in the game design principles, which I think is what sort of let them down at launch. But I think these are just things that are easily rectifiable. Basically, like a lot of complaints were of the loading screens and that kind of thing. So I think it will age very well, kind of like we saw Cyberpunk age very well, once the product is fully fleshed out and finished together. But again, it was one of the big releases this year in terms of sci-fi exploration. It's up there. It's one of the very best games. And again, it comes with the typical Bethesda formula. So a lot of people have come to love those kind of games. And then Baldur's Gate 3. Again, Larian Studios for me. Studio of the Year this year. Baldur's Gate 3, Game of the Year easily this year. I still think no one is toppling Baldur's Gate 3 in terms of Game of the Year. It came out of the blue. Again, it's not a new franchise, so it didn't come out of the blue in terms of that sense, like, oh, it's a new IP. No, but it came out of the blue in the sense that nobody thought it was going to be this good. We knew it was going to be good, but it basically blew all expectations out the water. Then we have Diablo 4 again. It's been a decade since Diablo 3, I think, again. And that was a game that was pillared for being a little bit too colorful. Again, Blizzard's Grizzly series was caked with marauding undead, rivers of blood, tortured souls, and just the usual things that you expect from a Diablo game. And again, Diablo 4 was able to bring that to life again this year. And we have Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, again with the success of 2017's Zelda Breath of the Wild. Nintendo ditched its tried and true Zelda formula entirely and built a new adventure. And again, Link was no longer forced to go from dungeon to dungeon, just doing clockwork puzzles in a linear march to the finish line, but they were able to get an open world formula. And again, with Tears of the Kingdom, they stuck with this formula and they knocked it out the park once again. Then another entry we have is Resident Evil 4 Remake. Again, I think despite this being a remake, it will be in contention for Game of the Year, but I think purely because it's a remake, it won't win. Because again, personally for me, I don't like to see remakes win, because even though a remake is a new reimagined game, it's still a game that was released earlier on, right? So you can't essentially reward a game twice. Like, you know, imagine it was, if we say, oh, this game came out in 2005, it was Game of the Year in 2005, and then it was remade 2015. In one game of the year again in 2015, that would be wild. So again, RE4 is perfect. Capcom are the best in business when it comes to remakes. They're able to reimagine everything from the ground up. I really like what they do. Again, I will always keep praising their remakes, because even though going back to remakes is seen as like a lazy thing to do, it's an easy cash grab, I love the fact that Capcom stayed true to rebuilding the remakes. So they actually reimagined the games, not only for the modern consoles, but just fully from the ground up, which means you're getting a totally new experience, even if you played the game in its original state. So again, someone like me who played the original Resident Evil 4, I'm still able to play the remake. And even though I'm remembering sequences and patterns and things from the original game, it still feels like a totally new experience. Then Hi-Fi Rush, again, Hi-Fi Rush for me this year feels like what Sifu was last year. Just a game that snuck up on us like a Beyonce album out the blue. It doesn't get, any hype. It doesn't get any build up or anything like that. It's just like, boom, overnight, the game is out. And doused and released on the exact same day. Again, Tango Gameworks is best known for their games The Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo, but they pivoted to give us a sort of Devil May Cry style game that was based on like music, again with a cartooning format. I really liked the what do you call it, like the art style. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I meant by like the cartoon format. Really loved the art style for Hi-Fi Rush, and it was a good new concept and take on the game, so I really enjoyed that. And again, so I'm not going to list out all the games that we had this year, because again, there's just way too many of them and this video will become too long. So again, shout out to Sea of Stars, shout out to Final Fantasy 16. That's another one that I forgot about. Final Fantasy 16. That was the other game of the year for PlayStation wise. Armored Core 6 is another one that came out. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is another one. So many of them. But for me, just to end this video so that we don't make it too long, I'm going to narrow down my personal final 6 for the game of the year. I'm going to go with Baldur's Gate 3, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, Final Fantasy 16, and Hi-Fi Rush. And I feel like I may be wrong there. Hi-Fi Rush may not end up making the final cut. It may get usurped by like a Resident Evil 4 or get usurped by like a Hogwarts Legacy. That's another game I forgot to mention. But yeah, that'll be my final 6 as we go into, as this video is released. Again, by the time this video comes out, you guys will already know the list, whether I'm wrong or right. So again, Baldur's Gate 3, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, Final Fantasy 16, and Hi-Fi Rush. That's my list. Let me know, which titles do you think are going to make the grade in the end? Do you think anyone's got this here on lock? Like I said, for me, Baldur's Gate 3 has it on lock. Let me know in your comments down below the 6 Game of the Year nominees you think will come through, or if the information has already come out, let me know what I got wrong or right in the comments below. But again, thank you for tuning in. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, stay dangerous, stay blessed, and peace out.
You have located a bomb. You must recover the diffuser. 1 out 4 remaining.
Strike Sting is in play.
Watch for the blast!
The diffuser has been secured. Op 4 eliminated. Friendly mission successful.